So, of course, the main problem that we see and the main problem that Apptio looks to address is something that I know you've seen in a lot of clients, especially when it comes to talking the same language, right, between IT and business. Of course, there have been many frameworks and products and practices and methodologies uh, to kind of quell this problem. But as we kind of step into what's next, major cloud adoption, of course, companies trying to manage both on-prem and hybrid uh, tech environments, that language is becoming more and more important. And this is really where we see Apptio serving a really right of creating that unified framework. So, when the IT side of the house is talking APIs, we can translate that into dollars, or at least dollar talk. So as I mentioned, Apptio is really more of an evolution, right, when it comes to key frameworks that underbed the product, uh, coming from a lineage of ITIL, COBIT being major frameworks, of course, in the 1990s, going into the early 2000s. But Apptio, really in this case, being one of the pioneers of the Aptum or the TBM framework, which the product is built on. So when we talk about, of course, major features, of course, an industry-defining taxonomy is going to be one of the key pillars driving this. So when we're looking at, of course, you as a service provider implementing Apptio and, of course, what services you're able to provide on top of that, that's going to be a key driver in enabling your clients to really understand that framework and really, have that transformation overall. Of course, another key feature is going to be around auto ingestion and allocation. So when we talk about having a very unified framework, something that's able to, of course, bring in the needed data around ERG, um, ERP data, forecasting, labor, what have you. The main value prop of the product is to figure out and to allocate or really correlate all of these different data points into something that makes sense. And then, of course, last but not least, is going to be scenario mapping. So we can figure out, okay, if I were to shut this server down, does that affect other products or services that is in my environment? So we're going to go through a quick demo today. Main question we're going to be trying to answer is, why is my Salesforce cost so high? I know this is definitely one that has come across, given your service practice. So we're going to go through the platform. We're going to see how, of course, the Apptio product, as well as what it brings to bear when it comes to the taxonomy and how we're able to view data, all in one cohesive bundle. Okay. So what you see here is Apptio 1. So this is one of the main, pretty much the bread and butter of the Apptio product. And we're specifically looking at our cost standardization around applications. So when we talk about kind of overall numbers, we see that we're, of course, overspent when it comes to our cost run. So that's something we'll need to bring down and mitigate. Uh, our app development is going good. So we're driving really good efficiency for app development. Of course, application spend is fairly high as a part of our overall IT spend budget. So, not really a problem, but something good to know. And then we see that our application count is pretty much flat. So, of course, there's a lot that you can see within Apptio, lots of dashboards, lots of things that you can aggregate together. But of course, we try to keep it simple as we can. Right. So we have, of course, something like this can be uh, printed out for, leadership, things that they can keep track of without going into the details. But what we try to do as a platform is give the best of both worlds. Right. So for our business users, we have kind of just high level information, but we're able to drill down into what it is we need as well. Okay. So to address the Salesforce issue, so as we see here, no surprise that it's driving almost $500,000 worth of our costs. And of course is the highest compared to our other applications, SAP, what have you. So if we go into here, we're able to see kind of a breakdown, right, of those larger numbers. The specific app run for this product, app development, and the addressable cost. So, the first two numbers look fairly good, or at least we're driving efficiency here. But we see that there's a very high addressable cost factor. And then, of course, this kind of breaks down a little bit more of what that addressable versus avoidant cost would be. And this shows us kind of the main business drivers or the unit costs that, as we're kind of saying, it seems that efficiency is being driven in this product from both an app dev and an app run standpoint. So, we definitely still have the question as to why is cost so high for Salesforce. Now, one thing to keep in mind and one thing to really understand, and this is more so from a frameworking standpoint, when we talk about addressable costs versus non-addressable costs, that's really something that is, of course, a part of the platform, but it's one of those key translations that Apptio makes where it delineates between what's more or less hard costs. So think infrastructure, think long-term licensing contracts versus more addressable or soft costs. Or in another way to say it is costs that we can manipulate within 6 to 12 months. So this would be any type of external services, be it consulting, SaaS, things that we can turn very easily on and off. So that's one of those really key translations that, as we said in the beginning, right, allows the business to talk the same language as IT. Okay, so as we kind of go through here, what'll be really valuable, and what we see represented here is, okay, we have this overall cost. How is that being broken down by our various business units, or how is it being consumed by our various business units? So as we can see here, sales and marketing is driving most of the cost, or at least most of the consumption for this application. Customer service makes sense, but we see we have a third laggard with finance. So automatically this can tell me a story of finance isn't really using the application. So maybe that's a low-hanging fruit that we can easily eliminate, at least from a cost center standpoint. Any questions so far?
No questions for me. Anyone else?
Awesome. Okay.
I do have a question. Where is this Salesforce cost coming from?
Say that again?
Where is this Salesforce data coming from?
So it's coming from a number of underlying systems. So be it that Salesforce, it can be a SaaS application. We can pipe in data from those given data sources. Anything around ERP, labor data as well. So it's really aggregating across a number of different data sources, but doing it in a way that brings to bear not only the cost of the application, but then also how does that correlate with certain business units and whatnot.
So is Apptio have out-of-the-box connector with Salesforce?
It does.
Or do we have
does.
To? Okay, thank you.
So Apptio has over 300 plus connectors out of the box. So you can get up and going in no time. So as we see here, we're able to see, of course, the business units, right, that are most impacted or at least consuming this application the most. So that's where we're going to at least put our focus for now and see, of course, digging a little bit deeper. How are they using it? Where are costs being allocated and what can be optimized? Okay, so now that we have, kind of a soft target for where we can drive some cost efficiencies, we're going to step into the addressable costs section. So this, of course, breaks down in a lot more detail what addressable cost looks like, not only per business unit, but then also looking at this per product as well. So now that we have, of course, sales and finance identified, we'll just go ahead and step into finance and see what we can uncover here. So we can see that we have a number of applications that finance is using. And of course, what you're seeing is finance across the entire business, right? So, when we're looking at an application, not only across a business unit, but across a given function, this is company-wide, right? So we have full visibility. Right, so when we look at the application investment objectives, we're met with one of those other naming conventions by Apptio, right? Of eliminate, so these are products that we want to get rid of, invest, products that we want to put more time and energy into, and then of course migrate, which of course we're trying to either go from on-prem to cloud or some other type of motion there. And then tolerate, which we're just holding off for dear life that nothing breaks there. So for what we see within eliminate, we see there's three main products that finance has identified that they want to eliminate. And just to go into, or showing you the feature of impact, right? So if we were to eliminate these products, what does that mean for other aspects that might be tied to that? So from here, we see, okay, there might be about 95,000 of avoidable costs. And then we can go and drill into why that is, right, across a number of different dimensions. So, Derek, as I mentioned earlier, when we're talking about data sources that are coming into Apptio, a lot of what we're trying to, of course, correlate is between the labor of a certain application, the application itself from a licensing software, and infrastructure, right, needed to support that application. So in this case, we see that we can drive some efficiency when it comes to project labor, non-project labor, and then of course the servers that are supporting that application. So these are all things that can be saved by the business because we've identified that we want to eliminate this application. Okay, so finance is kind of giving us the low-hanging fruit. So let's step over to sales and marketing, where we identified the bulk of our costs. Okay, so if we go into sales and marketing, much like finance, we're able to see all of the different products supported. And as we've already identified, Salesforce is driving most of our costs. Okay, so as we see here, kind of this as a high-level view, non-addressable costs. So this is going to be either infrastructure or things that can't be identified or addressed within a 6 to 12 month window. But as we identified before, we have a very high addressable cost center here. So around $500,000. So if we step into outside services, a lot of what we're able to see here is in correlation to the business units or the business unit efficiency that we saw earlier. We're also able to see, okay, given our spend on cloud service providers and other aspects as a part of this product, we see that we have a huge increase when it comes to consulting, right? So if you could imagine that we have the business unit cost going down, but we have consulting costs going up. So, just from a business story standpoint, we can identify that maybe this is something that can be eliminated from our overall costs. Be it that, app development is going well, our business unit costs or our cost unit is going down. So we might not need those extra services as a result. All right, so I hope I was able to show you just very high level, how I was able to walk through a certain scenario by using, of course, the capabilities in the product. First, looking at addressable and non-addressable cost, the elimination impacts, and how that affects other things within the business, be it services, be it labor cost, what have you. And then how we're able to tie IT to business outcomes, right? At the end, identifying that given that we're able to drive efficiency on the IT side, that probably means that we can cut some of our consulting costs as a result. So just to finish off and just to talk about high-level benefits, of course, that I'm already seeing for your service practice within this space or within TBM overall, we see very little in-house skill. Right? This is still more of an emerging practice, if you will, or discipline. So there's a huge opportunity to be had when it comes to, of course, creating your in-house knowledge, right? Of course, extending that out to the customers that you support, and really just being that go-to advisor as a result. Second is going to be really high recurring revenue, right? So these are going to be ongoing issues, right? When we talk about FinOps, cost optimizations on either a monthly, quarterly basis. So that would be very beneficial for you, especially as you look to expand your annuity business. And then last but not least is really just having a seat at the table when it comes to just an overall tech landscape visibility, and just being that trusted partner, right? That can come in, of course, help optimize costs, but as a result, also being able to have visibility when it comes to upsell opportunities for services. So a win-win for you and the customer. And with that, I would love to talk next steps. I think this could be great for what it is you all are trying to do, of course, around cloud optimization and FinOps overall. Would love to talk about either doing more of a deep dive or doing a POC. All right, thank you.